Hi, welcome to Golden Years. Happy New Year. This month, I am interviewing two special people from the Cleveland Sight Center, and they are going to share with us what is happening at their center and how so much is available for people. So come on back, and we'll share with you what's going on.
Here are AARP's top tips on caregiver preparedness during coronavirus. Form a caregiving team. Inventory essential supplies and medications. Make a plan to stay connected. Maintain self-care and follow CDC guidelines. Learn more on our website.
Hi, welcome to Golden Years. I'm Lori Betts. This month, my special guests are Tom Sawyer and Alicia Hawerton from the Cleveland Sight Center. And they are going to share with us their experience working for the Sight Center and what a gem they are and how much they have to offer for the people in need. So I wanted to have you guys back. I interviewed you back in 2018, and you were sharing with me all the good things that were going on at the Sight Center back then. And moving forward, I'm sure in 2020, you have a lot of updates that you do want to share with us. But first of all, I always want to start out with your history. How was it the two of you became good friends at the center and how you're helping each other out? So, Alicia, how did you get to be involved?
I'm not just an employee of Cleveland Sight Center, I'm a client of the agency as well. I've been visually impaired for about 40 years, and about 20 years ago, I discovered Cleveland Sight Center because
On your own, you discovered it, or did someone help you find it?
Oh, somebody helped me find it. It was a doctor who recommended that I might be able to utilize their services. And I wish somebody had done so a lot sooner. It would have made losing my vision go a little bit smoother. I might have done things a little bit differently, learned computers a lot sooner than I did. So I really needed orientation and mobility. That's learning how to use a cane to get from point A to point Z, sort of to just survive. So I became a client back then, and that's really all I needed at the time. And then roll forward a few years, and my kids were grown up. I was no longer a stay-at-home mom, and I needed something to do, so I reached out to Cleveland Sight Center again, and then I went through their customer service training program, learned how to use a computer, and did all that so I could do volunteer work at a local hospital. And there was a employment opportunity that came about in our store called the Idea Shop, and I interviewed and they hired me. And that was 10 years ago in July 1st, 2010, they hired me, and I have worn many hats since then. And currently I am our community relations specialist, and half of the outreach team, the other half is Tom. And I also do advocacy work with our lobbyists and tell all the legislative personnel our story of CSC.
And with your personality, I mean, you were determined to move forward and get the help you needed and to move forward in your career. So that is awesome.
Probably about 70% of the blind population is either underemployed or unemployed. So really want to be a huge advocate for that.
When COVID hit, how did that rock the Sight Center? Or did it? Or did you guys just move into changes with not any issue?
It wasn't without issue, but we did have to learn how to do the programs that to be successful in them, because a lot of what we do is hands-on. How are you going to show somebody who's blind or visually impaired how to do something unless you're using your other senses. And one of your other senses is touch. And so one-on-one, learning how to, use a computer, pour a cup of coffee, braille, all of those things. No matter what it is, it's using your hearing and mostly your sense of touch. So we really did have to think outside the box. We had rehabilitation specialists dropping materials off, doing braille over the phone, teaching people how to place things to make life easier, or having even our preschool. We've served clients from birth all the way through the golden years, and we have virtual programs for our youngest of children with their families, closed Facebook groups, doing virtual FaceTime for classes, even our social and recreational activities, which are really important for people. Isolation is a terrible thing.
The big
and
issue.
COVID really made that explode, especially for the blind community. You're isolated to begin with, and we do Zoom yoga, book discussion, line dance, singing, Jeopardy, all kinds of trivia games, all over the phone. And you can either
That's amazing.
Zoom in or even just call in. And, we even helped people, in this day and age, you really need technology. And our assistive technology trainers we even had a wonderful donor donate because of our assistive technology trainer, who thought, how am I going to help people learn these different programs if they don't have a laptop of their own? So we had an awesome donor donate the monies so that clients we could purchase laptops for them to take home and then have a Zoom conference to learn how to use
it. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
So some of the aspects that Alicia was talking about, well, yes, it was a transition. It's a hard transition, but when we think about low vision and blindness, people aren't relying as much on their vision as they are hearing. So the telephone is a possible transition. It makes it much more of a viable instrument. Even when we're talking on Zoom here, or WebEx, or any of the other platforms, they may not even see. They may not project their own image on there because they can't see anybody else. So they're listening.
Right.
So teaching many of the things through audible things is wonderful. Audio description is one of the things that we do. We have volunteers that do that. We do that for each other when there's an issue with what's out there, what's going on, those types of things. That's all audio describing. So that's how a person sees. It's seeing from a different point of view, if you will, and a play on words. There's a silver lining here, Lori, too.
Yes.
The silver lining is that we are in 9 counties. We serve 9 counties for adults. And in those 9 counties, there's people that cannot get to us. So sorry about the mask. They cannot get to us to have the on-location service, I should say. So with the virtual programming and over the phone things, they're able to attend things that they never could before because it wasn't available.
Yeah. So moving forward, we will, when we, post-COVID, and we can all get back together here at the agency here and as well as at our camp in Chardon, we'll still continue the programs virtually as well for those who, have transportation issues.
Which
so that works out well.
Yeah.
So like you said, like the silver lining.
That's right. You always have to look for that. In every problem, there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
But now, during the COVID, you didn't go into people's homes, though, did you? Or
no, a lot of our rehab therapists and case managers, they would drop materials off at the front door, and then have, a family member or the person themselves would get the material, then the rehab therapist would call them and they would go over the materials over the phone. Now Braille couldn't be taught to beginners to Braille because you already had to have an assessment if you could even read Braille with your fingers or not and know the alphabet. So it was contracted Braille. There's two sets of Braille. It's uncontracted and contracted Braille. So uncontracted is just your straight ABCs, and then contracted Braille is about 266 contractions of sets of Braille that mean something. So it would have to be somebody who already had the concepts down.
Alicia sounds like she is pretty busy. So what do you do all day?
I just sit back and let her talk. So I've been with Cleveland Sight Center since 2008. I covered the state of Ohio with assistive technology devices to see what could help the person, not what I could sell, but what products we could find for them to help them meet their needs. And so for a long time, I was out giving presentations about products. I was all over the state doing things, working one-on-one. So when this opportunity came up, Alicia and she's been doing things at the agency one-on-one and talking to groups and things. It was just a good mix. So we went out all over the counties when we could, talking to anybody. Because the problem is, we've only been around 114 years, and people don't know what we do or who we are because they spend most of their life avoiding thinking about losing their vision. People say, well, you can't help me see. Well, maybe we can't help them see the same way that they did, but using their other senses, even using eccentric viewing, which people don't know. Part of what we tell people is you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And they say, oh, I wish I would have known that earlier. So what they do is they make these assumptions that they're just getting older and they're losing their vision. They can't see as well. There's not enough lighting. There's all of these different things. Well, you don't have to be legally blind to be a client of Cleveland Sight Center. You have to have, your vision is affected your daily activities, at least one daily activity of performing. And that may be reading the paper. It may be a glare issue from light. It may be organized because of your vision. So there's
many tools out there for the person who does have the eye change, who does need a little bit of help, to focus better. Because there's a lot of readers out there, and then they get very frustrated when their eyes start changing, and they have a hard time reading. And I know they get very frustrated.
Yes, and so if and when they come to us, they see the possibilities of what can be, and then they can set new goals. If they're just struggling along and say, well, I'm going to try to make my coffee or whatever, they don't realize what they can do, and so they don't set any goals to get it there. And we all know if you don't have a goal, you don't normally get to there. So knowing what's possible gives people hope. And giving hope is what we offer first, because you can't actually give any services or provide services until a person has hope, because they're not willing to accept it, because they're not willing to apply them or make the application to create a transformation in life. So we help people reimagine by saying, what is it you want to do? Okay, you may not be able to do it this way. What are your abilities? We go through a number of different things with them to understand how we can help them do the strategies, techniques, and protocols, and equipment sometimes, but sometimes it's a very cheap or inexpensive fix to help them on their way to start a new life of possibilities.
And to have Alicia on board, that's phenomenal, because you walk it in your daily life.
Yep, about 30 to 35% of our staff are either blind or visually impaired. So, you can call up, you can ask questions, even if it's something that, a lot of people will say, well, I want to be a guide dog user. I don't want to use a cane. Well, you have to learn the fundamentals first and learn how to use a cane first. Before a guide, you can be a guide dog user. But even if you have questions like that, something that simple, we can give you the answer to that. And We don't necessarily recommend a particular guide dog school, but we know the names and phone numbers of all of them, so you can do your own research. They paired Tom and I together to be more progressive instead of passive in teaching people about who we are and what we do. And we have spoke to groups as young as 5-year-olds, teaching them about blindness awareness, all the way to police officers doing blindness basics training, teaching the clock method, teaching seniors that have vision loss. Well, would you have somebody help you? Well, not everybody just automatically knows you use the clock method, and the person who's blind or visually impaired is at 6 o'clock. So, teaching somebody that, whether it's navigating, your lunch on a plate or you're walking through a parking lot with somebody.
I'm so thankful there's great people out there like you that can help people get through this.
And that's what we do. That's what we do. Lots of people, while the medical profession is great, they're a little lax and sometimes referring people over until they can't do any more for the person. But how would you like to wait 2 years before you learn how to make your cup of coffee, or wait for somebody else to make your coffee?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So low vision care is very, very much at the same time as medical care is, to help the whole person. We believe in helping the whole person from a point of not just looking at their eye disease, or if it was a stroke or an injury or whatever it was. We look at the whole person. We understand where they are and try to help them understand where they want to go. So they don't have any idea because they don't know what's possible, as I said earlier. So we help them understand. We don't tell them. We help them understand so they have a better idea and they own it for themselves.
And we've touched on all ages except for the working age person. I did mention that probably about 70% of the people who are blind or visually impaired are either unemployed or underemployed, but we have even a whole employment service department that helps not only the person who's blind or visually impaired to, write a resume, dress for success, and, do all of those types of things, but educating the employer. Why would you want to hire somebody who's blind or visually impaired, and help navigate through the technology they might need and that type of thing to make it possible. So.
And maybe the employer doesn't even understand that can happen.
Right,
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
They just see the fear, I'll call it, on the opposite side, you need confidence, and that's what the person who's blind or visually impaired needs as well, is confidence to be able to do anything, whether it's pouring the cup of coffee, using the remote to watch television, or line dancing, or being employed, or going to school, whatever it might be. You need confidence to be able to cross the street with that cane.
We also haven't talked about the opportunities for Ohioans, ILOB, Independent Living for Older Blind, which is, we are one of the providers of that service, but it's for people over 55 who don't want to work or not looking for a job, but want daily living skills, want to learn daily living skills and become more proficient at what they're doing, more independent at what they're doing. The ILOB program, the Opportunities for Ohioans, which is that's part of it, will once the person calls us, and we'll fill out a little bit of the paperwork, get it to OOD. So they'll evaluate, they'll talk to the person. In many cases, they'll provide equipment, some equipment, not necessarily all of it, but some of the equipment for free, and there's no cost to be in that program. Now, we provide the services if we're chosen by the individual in the home, at our location by appointment, or at some other location where they feel safe and unrestricted about that. So it's very important that people know that they can be safe, but also have an ability to learn. Now, we do things virtually too whenever possible. So there's a number of different methods where we can provide service. But these programs are phenomenal, and they're really putting an emphasis on that. Now, when we say independent living, that doesn't mean a person can't live in a retirement community or an assisted living, but it doesn't communicate over to the skilled nursing home at this point. So, because it's for
Okay,
independent.
yeah.
And we mention that because so many of our services are not covered by third-party insurance, Medicaid, Medicare. So everything has a fee-for-service attached to it. So if you are over 55, ILOB will help offset the costs of those items. Now, we have never turned anybody away, even if they had just low vision. But for the ILOB program, you do have to have no more than 20 over 70 or no more than 40% of your visual field, where being legally blind is 20 over 200 in the better eye with the best correction possible, or the loss of your visual field down to 20%. Yeah, 20 degrees.
But so if they don't meet the criteria for the ILOB program, then that doesn't mean they can't get services. They still can get services from us. It's just not through them. And if they're unable to afford some things, or it needs to be a lesser value schedule, that's also possible too, because we worked a tremendous amount on donations from all around the area here. So we've had great support for that. We're not bugging a person when they come in to donate money before they get services. We help them find money, or we find money for them to get those services.
But now when a call comes through, you guys probably do the screening and see exactly what the person's needs are.
We have a registration department, and they go over all the services and programs, and sometimes people don't even know what service or program that they qualify for or even have the potential to do, but they assign them a case manager who is a social worker, and they just help them to navigate what their interests might be. And maybe all they want to do is social recreation. So then that's what we would do. And then Bobby or myself would reach out to them and tell them all about the recreational programs. And maybe they're just an avid reader. We would tell them about OLBPD, Ohio Library for the Blind and Physically Disabled, and get them connected with the audio book program.
Free program.
Which is a free program. They'll send you audio books. And yeah.
So our mission is to help people with vision loss realize their full potential, and sometimes it may be just turning on the television.
Right, or pouring a cup of coffee.
Not that they don't have more potential, but that's the potential they want to use.
Right.
Okay? So that happens. I've known people that didn't want to do things that they could. They said, I have a family to do that. So we don't push people to do more. We empower people, but we don't push them. So, but if somebody's interested in the OOD, Ohioans for Opportunities for Ohioans with Disability, the Independent Living Older Blind Program, they can call our agency and ask for Brian Manthey, and they'll get connected. He'll go over the details for more information. They wouldn't call us necessarily. They'd call Brian.
Yeah, Brian Manthey.
Manthey.
Brian with a Y.
So when they call into your center, is it automated where it tells them, what is available right then, or?
We do have a telephone tree, and you can actually, like, if you know the person's name, you can speak their name, and it will put you through to them. Like, we have two registration ladies, Kim and Olga. So if you knew their names, you could just speak their name and it would go to them.
Is it a user-friendly website?
We have been revamping our website, and it is even, I'm a JAWS user, and JAWS stands for Job Access with Speech. It's all optical character recognition, text to speech. Everything I do on the computer, I hear. I don't see the monitor. I don't even need a monitor. Don't use a mouse or a monitor, and I can navigate our website.
That's phenomenal.
But you can always call in people who don't use the computer. Our staff in the store have low vision, and they work with people, 3,000 to 4,000 people a year. They help them with a variety of things, especially a person who may not know what they want to do and aren't ready to become a client, but, or maybe they couldn't become a client because it's not really affecting them that much. But they can talk through it with a person on staff, and they will help them understand or make suggestions on how they may do things differently to help them, such as contrast. Somebody's having trouble seeing something light on a light table. We'll put a placemat down that's black. Something as simple as that. It doesn't, you may have a dome or a poster board. Contrast can be huge. A cutting board, you're having trouble cutting things. It's dangerous to cut things. So you may have a high contrast cutting board. You have a black cutting board, cutting white onions or chicken and different things. So there's a greater contrast, so you know where the things are. All kinds of stuff. There's a tremendous amount. The store has over 832 things, products, variations of products in the store or that they can get for people.
And I always say that there are two things that are fundamentally so helpful, and one of them is my cane to get me from point A to point Z, but the other one is this really inexpensive item called a bump dot. And it's a tactile raised rubbery silicone little bump, and you can put it on so many things. I have two keys that are very similar. One goes to the upstairs door, one goes to the downstairs door. So how do I know the difference? I have a bump dot on the downstairs door one. You can put them on your keyboard, your remote control, washer and dryer, stove. I have them, and you don't want to mark everything, but those are some of the things that we can help with, all the way up to high tech, OCR, speech to text, magnified CCTVs to, head-worn devices. I mean, just a whole variety of lighting, high contrast, magnification, traditional electronic, just so many things.
So when we say head-worn devices, people make conjure different images, but now you look like a 12-year-old playing a game.
Or wearing scuba gear on your head.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So very, very, and there's some tremendous advances in products that are happening all the time. I'm still involved with people, I think it's like 3,800 people around the world who are like-minded, most of them. They're developing things, they're looking into things, they're actually users of devices. So I hear about things that are still at university, under development, new and emerging trends for technology, and it's not always about specifically for people who have vision loss or blind, but a lot of applications can be put over for it. Although I'm a person, an advocate for design for everyone.
Cleveland Sight Center's phone number for my viewers.
216-791-8118 is the main line, and our address is 1909 East 101st Street, Cleveland, Ohio 44106. And our website is www.clevelandsightcenter.org.
Now, if you're interested in investigating becoming a client, you can call 216-658-4567. You don't have to become a client at that, but you get good information and you can make an informed decision.
And if you don't want to be a client, you could become a volunteer, and you could talk to Melissa Mock, our volunteer manager, or go to our website and see what volunteer opportunities are out there.
Thanks for joining us this month with the Cleveland Sight Center, and I hope you picked up some tips for them because they gave us a lot of great information. See you next month.